Welcome to Touring the AFC South. I am your host, Mike Patton. Yes, I'm giving you another show during the week. Yes, in this month, we are celebrating Women's History Month. And yes, every guest this month will be a woman, and every guest will be a Black woman. So get used to seeing that on the show for the month. But just had to lay the ground rules, let everyone know. But my guest on this show, of course, is used to write, I would say, for the Undefeated. Now it's Andscape. I have to get used to that one. But I wanted to bring her on. I saw an article that she wrote on Tennessee State on Brian Penny Collins. My guest is Mia Berry. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Mike. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yes. Pleasure's all mine. Now, for those that are not aware, can you give them a rundown of what all the things you do and where you've written?
Okay, for starters, I am the HBCU reporter for ESPN's Andscape. It's new to me too, but I'm loving the name is new, but I'm loving it. I cover all things HBCU. So I did work on the Howard student led protest back in October. I covered the CIAA tournament. I do any and everything HBCU related. So that's pretty much my job description now. Previously, I was with my hometown paper, the Detroit Free Press. Shout out to all my freeps. Love you. And I also did internships at the LA Times and the Boston Globe and the Washington Post.
Gotcha. So a nice Midwest and East Coast flavor to your writing journey.
Pretty much. I got a little West Coast in me. Spent 3 months out there, enjoyed the weather, enjoyed the sun.
Yes, definitely a different vibe out there.
Very much so.
Yes, definitely. Now, I want to get into this article you wrote on Brian Penny Collins and just the growth of the basketball program there at Tennessee State. So, what kind of tipped you off to writing this article as well? I like the article. I just wanted to kind of get a little bit more into it if you didn't mind.
Okay, so a couple years ago, you had Josh Christopher. He took his like a top ranked recruit. He took a visit to Howard, and one of the phrases he used was leveling the playing field. So I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Leveling the playing field. They used it in a sense of high profile recruits going to HBCUs. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. I want to know what are HBCUs doing to get some of these high profile recruits. And one narrative that I really kind of heard a lot from these other recruits, they never recruited me. Deion Sanders, he coaches at Jackson State. He was like, yeah, I knew FAMU. I knew Bethune-Cookman. They never reached out. They never recruited me. And going through my Twitter feed one day, I saw that there was a top recruit, and I'm like, Tennessee State, HBCU, and then sure enough, looked up Tennessee State, Brian Penny Collins, and reached out to coach and the energy he had regarding his program, some of the things he wanted to do there. I'm like, okay, let me sit down. Let's talk about this more. Let's talk about this coach, HBCU coach. He has no fear. He doesn't care what other people say. Oh, don't recruit that 5-star. He's never going to go. Don't waste your time. He's like, why not me? And that's really how I got into it and started following his journeys, started talking to him, looking at his roster. He has Power Five transfers from Purdue, Georgia, and just learning how he was able to build those connections, build those relationships, and actually get the attention of some of these guys.
All right, gotcha. Now, I will say that for those that don't know or for those that aren't aware, people would like to know how you got into writing. I mean, I know you're from Detroit, so people want to know how you got into writing.
I, it's a funny story. When I entered school, I never thought I was going to be a writer. I selected my college purposely because they were great at biological research. So I'm the kid from Detroit. I'm like, I'm about to make the city, make my family proud, make the city proud. I'm about to be a doctor. You know, being a first generation college student, you're like, you know what? I made it. I'm going to school. What can I do that I thought at the time would make me happy and make my family happy? Become a doctor. I wasn't too much into being a lawyer. I'm like, okay, it's the doctor, the lawyer, and I'm like, you know what, let me do a doctor. And then all throughout school, I took an internship with the athletic department, just writing, helping the SIDs out. And I've always loved sports, played 3 sports in high school. So I'm like, okay, I like this hobby. This kind of gets me through organic chemistry. This gets me through bio 1 and 2. It gets me through physics. And then one day I'm just like, I'm not happy with this. I hate labs, but I do love writing. And sometimes my grades were suffering because I'm like, I'd rather write something let me write an article about the basketball team than study and draw hex scenes and, oh, it's still like, OMG, I could probably think of the terms later. That's kind of how I've slowly mellowed out the science from my brain. Biological processes, I'm like, okay, creating ethers in the lab. I'm like, I don't like this. But writing was always something I loved to do and felt comfortable. So I'm like, whoop, kind of, switched over after my sophomore year, swallowed my pride, and then God just kind of worked everything out. I got my first internship at the Globe. Very thankful for that. When I'm like, I just really started taking writing seriously, and then grew leaps and bounds there, went to LA, built some connections, learned how to do a little bit more, learned how to cover a beat. And then, I was the COVID class for the Washington Post, so did a couple things remote for them. And then, when all else failed, ended up at my hometown paper because I miss writing. I wanted to write. So reached out to the Detroit Free Press sports editor, Kirkland, legit slid in this man's emails. He didn't know me. I didn't know him. I said, you know what? Pandemic, I wasn't writing. I think I spent maybe 6 months without writing. So I'm like, worst case scenario, he can tell me no. Very worst. So slid in, sent a sample, very humble. I'm like, I would appreciate it if you just kind of looked at this, tell me what I needed to improve on. And he just, he responded back. He's like, oh, I like the way you did this. I like the way you did that. You got a second to talk. And then I ended up being the intern. And I'm like, thank God. So that kind of really got the juices flowing again. And then the rest is really God, that I got into writing for ESPN's Andscape, formerly the Undefeated.
Right. Wow. Nice journey there. I would say that definitely I want to ask, you said you played 3 sports in high school. What'd you play?
So I did volleyball in the fall, basketball in the winter, track and field in the spring. Year round, I'm doing something.
Sound like me in high school. I did football, basketball, and I ran track in the spring. But the thing is, nobody, not very many people know, but I really didn't run track because I liked track. I ran track because I didn't want to do spring football. So
I'm not surprised because that's a lot of our football players. My high school, you had a 2-sport requirement. So a lot of the football players had to, if you were basketball, you had to do cross country and basketball, coach's orders. If you were football, you had to do football and track, especially running backs. They wanted that speed, cornerbacks, that speed kills. So actually, the football coach coached the track team. Like the offensive coordinator coached the track team. So he saw who was there. He saw who was putting forth that effort. I had a couple football players cradling that baton like a football. I'm like, I mean, that's one way to improve your team. I mean, our team went to states. They got blown out, but they went to states.
Got you. Wow. All right. So, of course, it's obvious that writing is something that you're very passionate about. What is your ultimate dream to take your writing? Do you have a kind of avenue to go in that you want to, kind of take it to?
That's a good question. So one thing I I love building relationships with people. I love telling their stories. And growing up, I was the girl that played sports. So anything regarding the WNBA, maybe long term, I can, move my way up, work for ESPNW, or work for a site that predominantly focuses on the WNBA. or women's college basketball. I think that'll be maybe my ultimate goal. Love telling stories, especially from women in sports that really look like me. WNBA, predominantly African American. Women's college basketball, the same thing. One thing I've loved seeing, you see a lot more black coaches. I remember growing up, the only really black coach I knew was Vivian Stringer. I remember watching those games like, okay, I'm going to see a black woman on the sidelines. And then at the corner of my eye, I caught Neo Ivy, who was then the assistant coach for Notre Dame, which fate would have it, I would go to Notre Dame and I would actually get to cover the team while I was there. So that was a blessing. But now you got Dawn Staley, Felicia Liggett Jack, Joni Taylor, Kara Lawson, Adia Barnes. You have so many black women within Tamika Reed from Jackson State. You have Ty Grace. I can name so many. I'm still going, but ultimately something where I can cover women's sports and add and increase their media coverage. I think that would be a blessing. I did a small version of that with the LA Times. I volunteered to cover the LA Sparks. They're like, oh, yeah, Mia, you have any off days? I'm like, no, because I'm going to Sparks practice on Saturday. I'm going to their game on Sunday.
Nice. You did mention my favorite WNBA team. And I'm still kind of sad that Candace Parker doesn't play for them anymore. But hopefully they'll rebound this year with Liz Cambage, coming out there to do her thing. But
I'm excited for them. Come on, you got Liz, you got Kennedy, you got Hollywood Kennedy Carter, and don't forget you still got NECA. I want to see Shanae. Shanae is the Renaissance woman.
Right.
WNBA and broadcaster, and she's a great person. She's a great interview. If you can manage to get her on, she's the perfect interview.
Well, I'm gonna have my people talk to your people and see if they can help me out. But
hey, we can see what we can do.
Well, I do have a game for you.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm as ready as I'm going to be. So let's get this started.
We got two choices: Little Caesars or Buddies.
Buddies.
Rob Parker or Jamel Hill?
Jamel Hill.
I figured you may say Jamel Hill. I do love listening to her podcast. I listen to it every week.
Unbothered. Come on, black woman from Detroit. We stick together. Even though she went to state, even though she went to Michigan State, it's okay. I still love her.
Oh my goodness. I was going to ask you Michigan or Michigan State, but I think I know
Michigan, go blue. Don't tell Notre Dame people that. I am not supposed to say that. But we're a blue household. We're a blue family over here.
Got you. Gazelles or Buffs?
Buffs.
Okay. You probably for those that don't know, it's barbecue. But football or basketball?
Ooh. I'm gonna go with my first love. I'm gonna go with basketball.
Okay. And I got an additional question for you since you threw out Michigan here. I'm gonna go throwback with this one too. I'm gonna go throwback. Well, somewhat a throwback. He's around the same age as me, but I'm gonna go Charles Woodson, or I'm gonna go the Fab Five.
Fab Five. Come on, Jalen Rose, Southwestern.
So I'm guessing you went to Southwest.
I'm from Southwest Detroit, so Jalen's name is big around here. My cousin actually went to his school, Jalen Rose Leadership Academy. So everyone loves Jalen out here. Shameless plug, Chris Webber went to the same high school as him. So the Fab Five, it's like, it just hit perfectly. Then you had Jawan at Michigan.
Mm-hmm. Got you. And let's see, I may throw a little Detroit Lions flavor in there for you.
Oh.
We're going to go Megatron, or we're going to go Barry Sanders.
I'm going to go Megatron.
Ooh, okay. I didn't expect that one.
I got to go. Probably, I've actually had the opportunity to meet both when I was at the Free Press. And then I was alive for Megatron's era. I got to see that live in person. I'm like one of those, the old school cats that be like, Michael. I'm like, I've seen Megatron. I've seen what he can do. especially when he the best player on that team. You got to hats off to him. The triple
Right.
coverage is still coming down with that ball, and they
Right.
know it's coming to you. Oh yeah.
I can't even deny that was some special things that he did out there. Now, what high school did you attend in Detroit, if you don't mind me asking?
I actually attended Detroit Country Day, so home of Chris Webber, home of Shane Battier. We actually had another NBA player, Edmund Sumner. So he played for the Pacers out of
I know
Xavier.
exactly what you're talking about. I know
Yeah.
exactly what you're talking about. Does he still play for them, or is he in the G League at this point?
He's actually rehabbing. So he tore his Achilles earlier this season. So he wouldn't. He even if he was on the team, he wouldn't be playing this season.
Got you. I wasn't for sure if because they've had a lot of roster shakeups, so I wasn't for sure.
Yep. And one more, home of Ariel Powers, WNBA player.
Oh yes, it's a
You
lot of
got
people coming out of there. Now,
yeah.
I could give you a few that came out of my former high school too. Darius Garland for the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Okay, I know Garland.
Let's see. David Harrison played for the Indiana Pacers. Was actually in the Malice in the Palace. Yeah, he actually was the. Remember when Steven Jackson went in the stands,
Mm-hmm.
and the big center that had the little fro that tried to kind of get him out of the way. David Harrison. Let's see who else. Let's see Jalen Ramsey.
Oh, see, y'all got one.
And see Derek Barnett.
Okay, tell me about Derek Barnett.
Plays for the Philadelphia Eagles. Was on a rookie on their was rookie on their Super Bowl winning team out of the University of Tennessee. Actually beat Reggie White's sack record at the University of Tennessee.
Oh,
yeah. So quite a few little names. Oh, I'm sorry, and then Brandon Wright. I'm sorry, I didn't throw Brandon Wright in there. That went to University of North Carolina, top 5 pick, Golden State. Yeah. So all of them went to my high school.
see, I love going to high schools that you can brag about. I'm working to get my name on the list. Maybe I'm not an athlete, but maybe one day somebody will throw my name out when they mention in my high school. I think that'll be dope.
Yeah, maybe so. You never know. But I have one more question for you.
Okay.
Can you talk about one woman that inspires you or has inspired your journey into writing or career up to this point?
Yeah, it's hard to pick one, but I'm gonna technically do one for personal, one for professional, because there is two people. Personal, my mother, because I told you I was that young Black girl from Detroit, thought I was gonna be a doctor, and then when I switched to writing, my mother actually didn't. She's like, okay. She encouraged me along the way. She said, I know you love sports. I know you can do this. And that really encouraged me to kind of continue with it because there was some pride shaking. People said some stuff to me like, you did what? To write? Could have been a doctor by now. So you kind of, I received those digs. It wasn't until I got a job at ESPN's Andscape that I'm like getting praise from from other family members. So it was hard at the beginning, but my mom, as the meme said, she stuck beside me. She's like, "You got this. I know your hustle. You can do it." And then professionally, I'm gonna go Candace Buckner with the Washington Post. I have met this woman once in my life, but the way she has treated me, the way she has mentored me, the way she has looked out for me, you would think I've known this woman my entire life. That's how much she's pretty much meant to me. The reason I've gotten this job is because she helped me. She helped me with my resume. She helped me with my clips. She's like, hey, I know somebody looking for somebody. And it's kind of went on from there. So divine intervention on meeting Candace. And it's not just me. She has a sisters in sports and she kind of mentors other young up and coming Black journalists. So I won't be the only one. You're going to see plenty more of us, especially with Candace's mentorship. And then shameless plug at Andscape, my managing editor, Monique, and our director for the Rodin Fellows, Elizabeth. So I'm blessed to have quite a few good women around me.
Right. It definitely sounds like it. And, you were one short of making a Fab Five with all the women you named, too.
I could have. I could have, but you know, the older I get, the more I'm growing, the more people I am meeting, the more people that are just pouring into my life. I've met Jamel Hill once and just, you know, you see that black, you see kind of parallels me a little bit. You see that black kid from Detroit, that black woman from Detroit doing big and impactful things. So I'll add Jamel to that so I can round out
There,
that Fab Five. Even though
there
she,
you go.
you know,
There
she
you
Michigan State, but it's still a Fab Five over here.
go. I hear you. I hear you. Now, what I will say is, it was definitely a pleasure having you on. Um, I definitely look forward to what all you're going to create, and of course, it could be writing, it could be, who knows, you could do some short story work, who knows, but
Ooh.
just throwing it out there. But you never know, and it's definitely a pleasure to have you on. Pleasure to be able to chat with you. I know it wasn't about the AFC South, which my show is generally about the AFC South, but hey, it's always a good departure to definitely talk to someone about their careers and to kind of big up someone that is actually doing great, wonderful things and having a great impact with her writing.
I appreciate you, Mike. Thank you so much for having me. And you know, NFL drafts coming up. I know I have a couple. We have a couple HBCU players on the radar. If a couple of them land in the AFC South, I wouldn't mind coming back to tell you why these guys are good pickups and how special they are.
Well, I have a feeling, I just, in my mind, I don't know if it's going to happen, but I have a feeling Akil Glass is going to land somewhere in the AFC South. I just have a feeling about it. I don't know this to be true or real. I haven't done any research. I just have a feeling about it. But hey, that's either here nor there. We'll see what happens. But, can you tell everyone where they can find you on social media and any things that you have you're working on right now?
Okay. You can follow me on Twitter at I am Mia Berry. Name is on the screen, and you can follow my writing on www.andscape.com. I got a couple pieces coming up that I'm pretty sure people will enjoy. I'm going back to my Notre Dame roots. So sometime within the next week or two, you're gonna you're gonna see a cool Notre Dame story by me that I'm proud to put out there.
Gotcha, gotcha. Please say it's about the head coach. Please, but I'll leave that alone. I'll leave it
It is
alone.
about a head coach. I'm not gonna say which one, but it is about a head coach.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, I don't want to spoil the story. But thank you for coming on, and everyone, you've been listening and watching Touring the AFC South with your host, Mike Patton. We're out.